Hello and welcome back to our show. After a brief hiatus, we are back once again with a brand new episode of Investor Education and Awareness Initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund in association with your favorite personal finance magazine, Outlook Money. These are some very difficult times. The second wave of the coronavirus pandemic has wreaked havoc in the country, but India has been fighting back on the health front as well as on the economy front. A lot has changed over the last 15 months, but many things have remained the same. Our resolve to overcome this crisis as Indians has not changed. Our commitment to fight the virus through precaution as well as the vaccine has not changed. And amidst all this, one more thing that has not changed is Outlook Money and Aditya Birla Sun Life's commitment to create awareness about personal finance and help our viewers get over this crisis. With that intention, we bring you this new episode with the theme Personal Finance, the New Normal. In this episode, we would try to unravel what has changed and what hasn't over the last 1 year when it comes to personal finance. How the pandemic has changed, how we approach planning for our future, the steps we need to take to secure it. To help our viewers find that right approach towards financial planning, we have with us some veterans from the field of finance. Our first guest is Mr. K.S. Rao, Head Investor Education and Distribution Development, Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management Company. Mr. Rao, an alumnus of IIM Calcutta, has spent over 2 decades in the mutual fund industry, and in his current role, he leads his organization's efforts towards investor education and distribution development. Welcome, Mr. Rao.
Thank you so much, Vishal. It's glad to be here.
Uh, it's pleasure to have you here, sir. We are also joined by Mr. Amit Trivedi, author, speaker, trainer, and blogger with over 26 years of professional experience in capital markets. As a trainer, he has trained over 83,000 participants through almost 1,300 workshops across 130 different locations across the country. Both Mr. Rao and Mr. Trivedi have done extensive work in the area of investor education. Welcome, Mr. Trivedi, to our show.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
We are also joined by Ms. Kiran Telang, a certified financial planner who is registered as an investment advisor with SEBI. She is also a founder member of the Financial Planners Guild of India. A subject expert on personal finance, Ms. Telang has also authored a book on retirement called Mindful Retirement. Welcome, Ms. Telang.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, pleasure is all ours. So my first question is to Mr. Rao. We can get straight to it. Mr. Rao, it has been almost a year since the term new normal was coined, right? Over this 1 year, has that definition changed a little bit, or has that been a major transformation in that definition? What is the new normal today?
Thanks, Vishal, for having me here. And it is indeed, it's a great to be back with the Outlook Money, and it's a pleasure to connect with larger audience with Outlook Money and our, as you rightly said, what is not changed is our association to reach out to the larger audience and what we can do very differently. And I'm glad to join with my two co-panelists, Amit ji and Kiran ji. It's like, this new normal has become something like a new reality, and it's little over 14-15 months now. We are thinking whether we need to call this as a new normal or this is a normal we are going to get adapted. I keep telling, WFH, that is a work from home, has become normal for us. It's but our priorities have changed. Not WFH, it is HFW. That is, you need to focus on your health first, and then take care of your family, then take care of your wealth. I think, your focus of WFH is HFW. And this last 16 months or so, like all of us, the life has changed very differently because we have started living in Indore. Our spending habits have changed. Our discretionary kind of spending has become discretionary and non-discretionary. We are focusing very differently. Our fight with COVID is continuing. I mean, and honestly, the wave 2 has emotionally impacted, and it has impacted more of us. And I think there was a study which is conducted by one of the psychologists group. They said every second Indian is got impacted with anxiety. I think this normal, but incidentally, we all resilient, and situation is forcing all of us to reinvent. And it is like there is nothing, we can't blame anyone. There is no excuse, but it's a time for us to take care of self and take care of someone around and have that compassion, have that personal discipline. And when it comes to the finances, probably it is a time for us to look, where we have invested, how we have invested, whether we are right. And I'm sure with me, Amit, and both the experts are there on the personal finance. I don't want to talk much on that, but it's now the priorities like this, your life, your livelihood, and your lifestyle, where you are focusing, what is your priority now. And there could be a job loss, there could be a salary cuts, but there could be a little more uncertainty, that extreme times of uncertainty. And that needs a lot of clarity for us to live in this new normal. And if this new normal, somebody said, it's a lock, unlock, and relock. And this is the way we have to look at our financial education is concerned: learn, unlearn, and relearn. And your priorities are getting changed. Keep focusing on that. That's where it's. I always say, change your outlook towards money, how you spend and how you invest, and how you take care of your financial goals.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. A lot has changed over this 1 year, and our priorities have changed and have to change with the change in circumstances. Mr. Trivedi, but how has the pandemic impacted the area of personal finance?
So, Vishal, first of all, let me just borrow from what Mr. Rao was mentioning. A few things have changed and a few things have not changed. So, let's say in our activities also, we moved from physical seminars to webinars based on electronic medium. But what has not changed is the communication. So while the medium of communication changed, the communication is the same. And similarly, in case of personal finance also, the same principle should apply, that the financial goals remain the same. Maybe the way you manage your finances might need to undergo certain changes, but your priorities in life have not changed that big time. I mean, certain smaller things have changed, but let's say I don't go out for movies, or I don't go to the restaurants for food, but my kids have to be educated. I have to fund my retirement. So those things have remained the same. Now, two major trends seem to have emerged in last 1 year or so, and it's quite stark, because generally it is observed that in extreme times things get magnified. So on one hand there are job losses, on one hand there are, and last year we had this entire migrant labor problem that all of us witnessed. There have been cuts in the income, but on the other hand, there are a large number of people who are also not impacted or less impacted because of this pandemic, either health-wise or wealth-wise. So what you see today is, on one hand, the hospitalization bills are going up in a few cases, and the income is dropped. And on the other, there is a class of investors who got surplus money to invest in whatever they come across. So while the economy is struggling, we've seen the stock market rising. While the economy is, while the economic activities slow down, there is a rise in various other assets, which were the unconventional assets like the cryptocurrencies, or even the metals and some of the commodities. So you're seeing some very stark gap emerging, and that is slightly disconcerting. It's not a good sign for the overall economy. That's what the pandemic has probably done.
Right, absolutely, and we have now a completely new normal. Things have changed. We are working indoors, like you said. The communication, the medium has changed, but the communication has remained the same. But when it comes to personal finance, when it comes to one's finances, there is some need, to adapt to this new normal. So my next question is to Ms. Telang. How important it is for one to adapt to this new normal, and what are some steps one can take to do that?
Well, thank you for having me here. So I'll take up from where Amit left it. So Amit mentioned that certain things have changed and certain have not. So your long-term life goals still remain. I mean, this is a difficult phase that all of us are going through, and there are changes which we need to make to adapt to this situation right now and emerge out of it in a relatively stable manner. So that has changed, the focus has changed, but the long term goals still remain. So it is really necessary to be adaptable in these kind of situations. So like there was this message on WhatsApp which was going, which I really liked, that we are all in the same storm but we are in different boats. So for each family the situation is very different. So looking at your own situation, you need to focus on how you're going to sail through this storm. So this is For some families, it could be, a temporary loss, maybe a job loss situation. For others, it could be loss of a breadwinner. So that is a huge loss. So how are people going to sustain in this? These are some critical questions at this juncture which are arising. People would have known this somewhere back of the mind, sometime back. But when things are normal, you tend to push these to the, back of your mind, and you don't really do anything about it. But unfortunately, I mean, today the situation is such that you really need to answer these difficult questions, and you need to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That is what I will say. So there are steps which each of us needs to do to adapt to this situation.
Right. And can you, elaborate on some of the steps that one can take to do that?
Yeah, so I would like to maybe put it into two parts. One could be what you need to do when everything is all right in your family, and the other step is when an unfortunate event has happened. Either the family has suffered, some issues because the members are hospitalized, or there has been a death in the family. So there are these two critical aspects to look at it. So while everything is okay, I think it is very important to first list down, all important aspects. I mean, if I look at from the finance angle, you list down what you own, what are your bank accounts, who are the nominees. Look at how you're going to access those things, because see, what happens is usually it's either a single account in the name of the primary breadwinner, that is normally in most cases is the husband, and the wife and the children don't really deal with all the banking issues and things. So if this person is hospitalized, how does the family access the money? So that is a big question which we normally don't think about. So think about those things, that if such a situation arises, how is the family going to handle it? So first of all, will there be access to money? Second, whom are you going to approach for help? So it could be not only related to your money, as in your advisors who are there in the arena of finance, your insurance agents, who could help you with your health insurance claims, or God forbid, if you need assistance in claim for life insurance. So those kind of things should be, available to the family as well. Apart from this, actually, how are you going to help? I mean, how are you going to ask for help? I mean, who are the family members, or who are the immediate family, friends, neighbors? Because not always your family is around, so then you'll have to take help of neighbors. So hospitalization, who will take you there? So these are these practical things which you need to kind of chart it down, though obviously everything you cannot write it down in advance, but if you discuss it within the family, at least the broad framework is ready. In Bombay, in a city like Bombay, where houses are pretty small, so if there is a case for, say, isolation, so where will you isolate? Will you be able to manage it at home? Would you need hospitalization? What are the procedures? I mean, how is your municipal corporation going to take care of it? These are critical aspects in these days. I mean, it is not related to finance, but this is how things will be when you have to face it, and you have to be ready for it. It's scary, it gives anxiety, yes, definitely, but this is reality, and you have to prepare for it. So this is the preparation when things are right. Now, after say there has been an issue in the family, somebody has passed away, there will be grief, there will be those times where you are not able to take any decisions, or you are not in the frame of mind to even discuss these matters. But life goes on. So people who survive will really need to pick up the threads and move on. The survivors will need to access the funds. So you need to, I mean, if you made the preparations earlier, you'll have everything in one place. So you will know how to access the bank accounts. You will know where the investments are made. So you will know how to claim it. You will know how to approach the employer. I mean, if there is a benefit for the employees in terms of, say, life insurance, which was given by the employer, or any health insurance claims that are pending, or if there are pension things, which can be started. There are superannuation funds which companies offer. So there is some money coming in from there. So those things need to be taken care of, and see that you have sufficient money to take care of your immediate needs. Maybe the long-term decisions can be postponed. I mean, you don't need to take decisions on the long-term goals right now, because you're not in the frame of mind to decide what and how about life. So give it a break, take a 6-month, 1-year break, and then take the bigger decisions in life. But immediate needs should be taken care of. There are certain things which are time bound. Like you have to inform the insurers of any claim arising. So those time bound things, you ask for help, go to your advisors, go to your agents. They will do the needful, the paperwork that needs to be done. And these things need to be put in place. Longer decisions, just wait. till you are in the right frame of mind.
Right. Absolutely. These are difficult times, and a lot of difficult decisions are ahead of a lot of people in our country, and it's important to know about these basic things. And I think will planning is also something that needs to be taken up more seriously in today's time. Over the last 1 year, we have also seen, in terms of the investment scenario, an interesting phenomena, or the journey of investing has been quite interesting. We saw some asset classes do really well at one time, and then at some other time, some other asset classes still, outperformed. Gold and equity being two such examples. Cryptocurrency is another one, right? Perhaps this was one of those years, those rare years, when so much swing happened in such a short time, be it equities or gold or cryptocurrencies. What lessons should one take from this, right? My question is directed to Mr. Trivedi.
Thanks, Vishwa. It's a very interesting question. And at some point in time, a lot of people were questioning whether the equity markets are decoupled from the real economy. We've seen some data and which suggested that while the number of active cases, we've seen the first wave and the second wave, but when it comes to the equity market movement from last March till now, it's almost like a unidirectional up move. If you look at the broad indices. Now, so what's happening in this case? There was a lockdown, there was a recession for the first time in 40 years, and the stock market continued to go up. Incidentally, last year, this is 2020, was the first ever year since the inception of Sensex that after more than 30% drop during the year, we ended the year with positive returns on the Sensex. Okay, so it was crazy. Simultaneously, almost all the commodities prices went up globally. Interest rates have gone down globally, which also means that fixed income assets have also appreciated. Real estate also is reviving. So what's happening? All the asset classes are going up. My understanding in this case is, in order to fight this slowdown or recession which was hitting the whole world, the governments all across the world pumped in liquidity. They pumped in so much money in the system. Even today in the United States, for example, there are what they call the paycheck protection programs, which people who are not in active employment are getting aid from the government directly in their bank account. We also saw some such help coming in for the BPL and other categories of Indian citizens, that the government directly put money in their bank accounts. Now, when such a thing happens, where does that money go? In normal times, some part of that money would have gone towards consumption or capacity building in industries. But today, there is total lockdown. So you can't even go and consume that beyond your basic needs. You can't set up a plant. You can't build a house because there is lockdown. So what do? And in such case, most of this money has come into the investment assets, be it the financial assets like stocks and bonds, or commodities and stuff like that. So that's probably what is happening. So it is the liquidity which is driving the asset prices. Now, when such a thing happens, it is better to exercise caution, because if liquidity is driving the prices, you got to be very careful, because sometimes you end up chasing a trend when the asset is not worth it and it has become costly, and you may end up buying a worthless asset at a very high price. So you got to be very cautious in selection of your investments. Number two, never forget to keep cash in your portfolio. So don't deploy everything in your riskier assets. Because suppose if another downturn happens in the financial markets, for some reason, where will you get the money from for your regular requirements? One of the lessons that recently I read an interview of Morgan Housel, the author of the book Psychology of Money, and he brilliantly said, one of the lessons that I learned from 2020 was always keep some cash in your portfolio, because when the stock market tanks or the investments market tank, it is the cash that gives you protection. Otherwise, you would withdraw money at the wrong time from your investments and interrupt the process of compounding over long term. So taking the money out at wrong time means you stop that process of compounding. And that's where, while investment assets have continued their good run, those who had invested are feeling good about it. Be happy with that so long as the party goes on, but don't get overjoyed with that. Otherwise, the hangover would be very costly tomorrow. So keep the basics in place. Check whether you got enough insurance or not. Check whether you got contingency fund or not. Do your asset allocation in line with your family's financial goals. And after everything that you've taken care of yourselves, keep some money for the charity. As I was mentioning earlier, you are actually seeing too much of divergence, the haves and the have-nots. If you are in the better category of the haves, provide for the others who are in need today. So focus on charity also. That's what I would say.
Right, absolutely. And in this backdrop, in this liquidity-driven markets, how important it is to balance and rebalance one's portfolio.
Yeah, so typically your asset allocation plan that you've done has to be in line with your personal requirements or the family's requirements, all your goals, risk profile, your income, expense balance, etc., etc. So you done it in that manner. But one of the things that is very important while deciding that asset allocation, the deciding factor sort of, is how much risk do you need to take and how much risk can you afford to take. So it's a balance between how much is your risk-taking need and how much is your risk-taking ability. The moment certain asset categories appreciate more than something else. So let's take, for example, you decided to keep 50% in risky assets and 50% in safe assets, just to use broader terms. And today, after a major move, the riskier assets have moved up faster than the safe assets. So now your balance looks like 60-40, 60% in risk and 40% in safe assets. Because your asset allocation determined that you need 50% only, you can't afford more than 50% in the risky asset. You got to rebalance. Had it been the other case that the risky asset has gone down in value, then your need was there to have 50% in risky asset. So you increase allocation there. So you keep focusing on your risk profile, your needs, and do rebalancing of the assets. It is critical. It is part of the game. It's like when you are driving on the road, depending on what kind of road you are driving on, you need to decide how much you press the accelerator and how much you press the brakes. That's what rebalancing eventually achieves. So it is essential. Stick to that asset allocation plan. It's easy to get swayed by what is happening around, all the external noise, and deviate from that asset allocation plan. But that would be an incorrect or imprudent move.
Right. That seems simple enough that you have a asset allocation based on your risk profile, and if whenever there is a deviation, you just restore it. But a lot of people find it difficult to achieve that rebalancing. So I ask Mr. Lang, how can one achieve that rebalancing? How often they should do that rebalancing? Any tips and lessons that one should follow when markets change like this, and even in normal course of time when there is some kind of stability in the market? How often they should go for rebalancing, and how should they do it?
Well, Amit explained it beautifully about rebalancing. The critical aspect here is that you first need to spend some time to actually figure out what is the right asset allocation for you. Very often we see that people are more concerned with which scheme to invest in or which product to select, without looking at the base framework which is needed in terms of what is actually your risk profile, what will be you be able to tolerate in case scenarios go very bad. So your investment selection will come much later. You need to spend some time and figure out first your asset allocation. Now, people who are, say, a little more aggressive could maybe have a strategic asset allocation and a tactical asset allocation. So strategic asset allocation is basically your framework which is going to stay steady throughout. Now, in case of tactical asset allocation, you have to have some amount kept aside, which you will utilize in case of scenarios where the say if you're investing in equity markets, if the equity markets have gone down quite a lot, so you should have some allocation available in places where you can pull out the money and put it into equity. So that could be a tactical part, but your strategic asset allocation, as Amit was saying, that say it's like 50-50, you could have 60-40, 60 in equity, 40 in debt, or if you're more aggressive, maybe 70 in equity and 30 in debt. Or in the reverse manner, somebody who's very conservative, maybe a retiree or somebody who has already created ample wealth, they could look at maybe only a 30% equity allocation and maybe a larger debt allocation. So depending on your personal situation, first figure out what is suitable to you in terms of asset allocation. Once that is in place, that could be an ongoing exercise, say once a year. I mean, not too often, but maybe once a year, at least you need to check whether your asset allocation is in place. You need not change it every time it goes 2 or 3% up and down, because in changing your investments, in rebalancing also, there could be costs involved. So costs could be in terms of, say, exit loads if you are into mutual funds. There could be taxation impact in terms of, say, if you're moving out of debt funds, because if you withdraw from debt funds before 36 months, there is a tax impact, and your normal taxation comes into play. So all those aspects need to be kept in mind. So every 2 or 3%, you really need not take any action. If there is a drastic movement, so somebody had taken up a rebalancing exercise in March 2020, the equity portfolio would have been very low and the debt probably would be looking much better. So in that situation, automatically, you know that you need to rebalance it to your original proposed asset allocation. When you do that, you end up following the cardinal rule that has to be followed, that buy low and sell high. So you are selling high because your certain portion of your assets has gained much more than what you had expected, and certain other asset class has really gone down.
Thank you. Thank you so much for a wonderful explanation. Now I come back to Mr. Rao. Mr. Rao, we have now talked about a lot of things that have changed since the first case of COVID-19 was reported in India. We also talked about things that have remained the same, like Mr. Lang said, that even though circumstances have changed, our long-term goals have not changed, right? Now we are going through the second wave, and so many different aspects of our lives have also changed. So while our long-term goals remain the same, but what about the basic principles of personal finance? Have some of them changed, Mr. Rao?
Thanks, Vishal. I think I really enjoy those conversations on the rebalancing and asset allocation, and that clearly shows the personal finance principles remains always intact. It's it cannot change. I mean, as we discussed in some of our earlier conversations, personal finance is the person comes before the finance. It is each of us may have a different constraints. I think Kiran put it very rightly. Like all of us in the same storm, but we are in the different boats. How you are facing it, that's where it comes. But when it comes to this personal finance, probably the 4 pillars of the wealth is always how much you are earning, your income, and how much you are spending, and how much you are saving, and how much you are investing, and how that you need to rebalance. That's the most important part. And some of us, maybe our income remains the same, our spending would have come down. Or for some of us, income would have come down, but spending could be on higher. Then we need to look at. And earlier, our savings and our investments, we need to look at those 3 parameters, whether you need, what kind of liquidity you have. I think earlier, Amit was mentioning very nicely the kind of cash you need to, your investment in the cash. I think this pandemic has thrown us really out of balance. You don't know when you need cash. Imagine, last 40 days, we couldn't go to the ATM because we are a little worried there is a virus overload. You need even cash, not only in the account, my investment account, but I need some cash even in my at home. I mean, that is the kind of liquidity today I need. And cash I need not only for my requirements, even somebody who is working with me, they need suddenly some cash, your security person, to your, home help, and anybody you need. And what is your liquidity, and what kind of income you have, how it is impacted, and what you are looking at. It's a time I'm not looking at too much on the growth, but yeah, for some of us, there is an opportunity where you can rebalance. I mean, earlier when it has been said, either it's a tactical asset allocation or strategic asset allocation, how you need to look at. And the principles remains the same. Again, safety, liquidity, return, that cannot undergo change. All of us need to stick to what kind of, probably this is the time I can go back and look my risk profile, because some of us, our risk profile would have got changed. because of the scenarios undergone change. A year before, I may be ready to take more risks. Now I may be a little conservative because of the situation. Earlier, I may had something like 3 to 6 months of emergency fund. Now I may be looking at 6 to 12 months. Some of us may be laughing in the last year if I say 12 months of emergency fund, and we never knew this situation comes. It's now the 12 months of emergency fund. And what kind of your short term, your medium term, because our long term remains focused. I don't think it will change. Your retirement fund or your your child education or those things may not undergo change. Then how you are planning? But all that what we need to do is the principles remains the same. Stick to those basics and always work on your cash flows, and budgeting is become most crucial now, and prioritize your goals, because some of our goals have undergone dramatic change. And never indulge at this point into the overspending, whatever the level of income you have, because we don't know how it has been thrown. I have seen few of my friends who are reasonably, I call them HNIs and super HNIs. Honestly, situation is not the same. And cash flows, it is impacted so much. And some of my friends in SMEs and MSMEs, their cash flow is impacted so much, they are just drained out of. That's where never indulge in overspending. At the same time, never indulge in panic selling. And this market, don't analyze too much. These lockdowns are going to extend it, and market may get corrected. Probably be there. And I call this is a time not to chase, but stick to chase. That chase is CHASE, that you need to have your contingency fund in place, and you should have your health insurance in place. CH and A is your asset allocation should get there, and you need to rebalance. And S is, you stick to your goals. Don't change your goals. You stick to your goals. And last E is your estate planning, whether your nomination is there, because I have seen the pain of one of my colleagues, lost both the parents. And my colleague doesn't know where they invest, what kind of bank accounts they have, because both the parents are tech savvy, and we can't even get the password or code. Imagine situation. When I lost my father, at least I had some passbooks, I had some bonds, physical certificates. Maybe it took 5-6 months for me to get out of the shock and look at, but I could go and look at. Now, my colleague, now it's very difficult to look where these investments are. That's where your estate planning is very important, and that's where people like Kiran, who throws torch and light to us. I think, financial planning truly gives the clarity. This is a time, I was just telling yesterday, one of my friends, he lost his father, and his father was investing entire money through the fintech platforms, and he don't know anything. And I said, this is a time you may use the fintech platforms as a digital side, but you need a personal financial advisor. At least he or she would have come and helped at this point. These are the places your father got. It's after the grief. This is immediately. And truly, I look at a financial advisor necessity is too high now, because that gives a direction to us, that gives a support to us. Technology is a platform. Definitely, it gives the ease, but physical touch or the human being can give us little beyond and can make our life, our grief minimized to the maximum extent. And last but not the least, while focusing the wealth, we all need to focus the principles of personal finance remains the same, and principles of the health remains the same. I was telling someone other day, if you want to be the scenario is so bad that who is disappearing when we don't know, and that's a situation. Most of the times, one of my colleagues who is just 30, and he was such a hale and healthy guy, and we just lost him in 3 days in a hospital. Means, this is a time you need to protect the principles of health. Also, you need to follow. Similarly, the 4 pillars of health, you said income, saving, spending, and investing. And 4 pillars of health is you should have a sound sleep. And that is if you want to be seen into 2022, you need to follow this SEEN. I call one is your sleep, that is in proper sleep. Second is your emotional well-being. Third is your exercise, and fourth is your nutrition. If you follow this, then your immunity is developed. Probably both the principles we need to follow to principally stay afloat and to live back for the year to see.
Thank you. That was a great mix of financial as well as emotional wisdom. You mentioned that one should not change one's financial goals, but I will come. I will take a step further, and I will ask the same thing to Ms. Telang also. Ms. Telang, the pandemic has shown us many things we had not even imagined. Right? We even 15 months after the first case was reported, over 15 months, and almost more than 1 year after the first lockdown was imposed. Even today, so many cities are still under lockdown. This is something nobody had imagined that it could happen. Whole cities, whole country being under lockdown for such a long time. So, is it a time to revisit and relook one's financial goals, or should we stay true to the adage that financial goals cannot be changed? So, what do you think about this?
I would look at it from a broader perspective. See, finance and money and everything else is there to support your life. You don't turn your life around to suit your financial goals, right? So your life is changing. So do you need to look at your financial plan and make those changes that need to be done. While it is true that the long-term goals don't change. I mean, see what you're doing today. Why are you planning? Because you hope that tomorrow is going to be better than today. So tomorrow you're still going to send your children, away for higher education. They could go to other cities. They could go to other countries for education. You would still retire. You still dream of your vacation. So all that is hope that life is going to be better and life is going to continue as it is. So those things are going to be there. So that will not change. What you need to look at in your financial plan is how do you navigate this difficult circumstance right now. So are you prepared well enough? See, what happens is normally, when we suggest, like Rao sir was also saying, we were talking about emergency funds. So the thumb rule says that 3 to 6 months. But is that really enough? People don't realize this when things are going well. It hits home when things are bad, like in these situations. So now people are realizing that yes, maybe in a particular situation, 3 to 6 months is not enough. You need to bear a little more on the emergency fund. And again, looking at things like why is my liquid fund giving something similar to a savings bank account? Why should I keep money there? Or why should I keep so much money there? So your emergency fund is lying in probably debt funds which are low yielding currently. So you need to live with the fact that this is a time when you need to survive. And if there is a bad situation coming to your family should be able to face it. So these are the change in focus areas for the present circumstance. So why we talk about financial planning review is because of these circumstances. So it's not like you create one document and it stays there. So even in war, what they say is that when you plan, something else happens on ground and you keep on changing. So the plan is there to give you a blueprint that this is the way you move, but obviously there will be directional changes required as the external situation changes. Based on the external situation, your emotional setup could be changing. So you could be more anxious, you could fear a job loss, you could fear ill health in the family. So how do you overcome these circumstances? So if your say contingency fund is sufficient, you have a year or more, depending on what industry you're working in. If you're a freelancer or if you're running your own practice, like for us also financial planners, we run our own practices. So in these kind of situations, each person, each family will have a different amount that they will require in the contingency fund. So look at that, refocus on what you missed out earlier, because probably that was not something that you understood that well. So you also are growing as a person over time, and these situations in life do maybe probably help you grow faster. So your emotional maturity has now come in that you need to look at things differently. So basis that, change whatever is required right now to survive these difficult situations. Long term plans can stay. So see to it that whatever you are doing so far for your long term plans, you don't take a break. Like Amit was also mentioning Morgan Housel's case, where he mentions that you have to have a higher holding in cash, because if you have that, you have that peace of mind that okay, if there is a difficult situation, our family will be able to overcome it, and you're not touching your long term goals. Because see, if you look at say a year down the line, if things improve, you will forget about all this. And then if you have already dipped into your provident fund, or if you have dipped into your retirement corpus, what do? I mean, that money is gone, right? So it is better to save something separately for these difficult situations without touching your long term goal. I think that is essential to understand right now, and that is the change in focus that is needed.
Right, absolutely. Change in focus, given the change in times, that is pertinent to do. Another, change that we have seen from last year to this year is how stock markets have behaved to the kind of health crisis and economic crisis that the country is going through. Right, we went through the first wave of pandemic, witnessing so much volatility in the market, such a deep correction. The second wave has been much worse. But the markets have reacted completely in a different manner. no deep correction, not that extreme volatility that we saw last year. So I asked Mr. Trivedi, how do you see this? Apart from the liquidity factor that you mentioned, what else is there to this kind of a behavior from the stock markets?
So as I mentioned earlier, it's too much liquidity is available in the hands of people, and there's not much to do. So that's number one. Number two, the lockdown also meant that a lot of people had time at hand, and anyway, if everything is happening online, the investment markets are also available online. So it's the same screen on which, on a different window, you could be in a Zoom call and you could be on a broker's trading terminal. So that's also a possibility. I'm not suggesting or recommending that, but it is possible. And why am I mentioning this is because this was very similar to what we saw in the years 98 and 99 in the United States and some companies in India, where the technology boom or the dot-com boom was taking place. Internet broking had just started and internet chat rooms had just started. So some of the people were trading on the terminals, some of the internet stocks which were hotly discussed in the internet chat rooms, and they were making money in intraday trades. Now today also to an extent that's happening. Number two, supporting that argument is look at the number of demat accounts which have opened in last year or 15 months in India and globally. If you see, let's say especially US, there is this entire category of Robinhood investors, which basically is retail investors who are taking calls as per their understanding, and sometimes they are able to give tough fight to the institutional investors. So what's happening there? Is there suddenly some change which has happened that their investment knowledge has gone up, their investment skills has gone up? No, not really. Their time has gone up and surplus money available has gone up. So these two things have gone up. And then once you invest your money and test success immediately, then your confidence goes up in your ability to generate returns. And at some point, that confidence turns into overconfidence, and then that overconfidence, at what point it turns into arrogance, is not known to anybody. This is one of the things that one should guard against. This is one of the major developments that's happening, because in Indian markets also, if you see, there are days when FIIs are selling, but the retail is buying, or the domestic institutions where the money is actually coming from retail investors, they are buying. So you see that power also happening. Number three, what happened in 2020 reminds me of what psychologist Dan Ariely had written in his book Predictably Irrational. So Ariely had got into an accident and he had massive burns on his skin. So one of the days when he observed, when the nurse was coming to for the dressing, she was pulling that bandage. So the skin was burnt. So the bandage was stuck to the flesh. So when she was pulling it, she thought that in order not to hurt him, she was pulling it very, very slowly. Ariely asked her to pull it very fast. She said, but it will hurt. He said, yes, I know it will hurt, but it will be a high intensity, short-term pain. What you are doing is you are giving me a long-term pain. And in the anticipation of more pain, I am suffering even more. Historically, if you look at the 2008 to 2014 period, the equity markets continued to remain at lower level for a very long period. Enduring that is always more difficult than a spike where there is a sharp V-shaped recovery in the stock markets. So even when that fall happened, people did not scare and panic out of the investments. They held on to their investments. But in 2008, what had happened was, after 2008, when the markets went back again to the previous peak in 2010, some people removed money. And then again, the market came down. Those who held on, they tried to exit in 2012 when the peak was reached all over again. When the period is prolonged, when the pain is prolonged, it's far more difficult to withstand it than a short-term sharp pain. So this is another thing that we have witnessed in this period. So to that extent, while the recovery has been faster and sharper, the typical tendency of behavior doesn't seem to have changed.
Right, absolutely. And one lesson that I draw from this is that you should not, let your confidence turn into overconfidence, and overconfidence then eventually turn into arrogance. That is one lesson we can draw from, our experience over the last 1 year. What are the other lessons? I come to Mr. Rao. What other lessons should one take from the experience of the last year, and how should they implement those lessons today to sail through the second and, God forbid, the third wave?
Yeah, thanks, Vishav. I think I learned a lot of lessons already from Amit's session as he was talking. It was very interesting, whether you anticipation of the pain or pain, your quick pain. But I look at like this. Let me give some anecdotes. First of all, I think, Benjamin Franklin, who said, out of adversity comes opportunity. But in adversity, are we learning? If we learn out of that, then opportunity comes. And this new normal, the topic is for us new normal. In this new normal, one thing is what are the things have changed for us? The first thing, when I go out now, I can't go out without mask in the last 1 year. But in the last 2 months, it has been told you should have a multi-layered mask. Means, your safety and protection need to be doubled now. This is a lesson I learned is you need to have a multi-asset category to invest, and you have to take your safety and protection multiple way. You have to take safety and protection. One way that's one, and second is now there is a big instructions. Like we are all social beings and we love partying. And when I come to a Delhi, I try to meet in a coffee shop rather than meeting in your office, because that's where we can have the joy. Now this message is for us: avoid large gatherings so that you don't mess up yourself. And similarly, don't mess up yourself by investing in so many things. In the process of investing, I have seen people investing 20 folios, 30 folios, and 30 investments, probably simplify it. Maybe 5-6 funds are simple, and simplify it. Now we were told we should have a 100% social distance. I think, the investor need to get himself or herself social distance from the social media and day-to-day happening newsline heads. You can't change the portfolio because of what you heard in the media, and you need to look at. And it is like 14 months. Most of us, partially we went to office, but we are staying indoors. And staying indoors only to say stay safe and stay safe and stay healthy. And I can only say, irrespective of what is happening outside the market, I mean, as the earlier fluctuations about Amit was talking about, please do stay invested. If you are not staying invested, you are paying the price. Markets will do it. So markets have its own way to go, and you lose out the profitability or whatever you want to earn. Your portfolio needs to start earning for it. Stay invested. Don't take any panicky decision and to get out of it. And this is a time which has impacted your physical health more than the physical health, your mental health. Physical health only impacted for very few of us, 2 to 3% of the population. But 90% of the population is a mental health, because something has happened to someone. And it is a time for us to go back and sit on the personal finance, understand the psychology of money, psychology of investing. I think both of them narrated so nicely how you need to look at that money. And I think Morgan Housel, when he's talking, that's how you look at just psychology of money. And this pandemic second wave, to be frank, in January, February, in our sessions, we never anticipated, we never discussed. And second wave is come unexpected all at once. And it's like, it is for us, it looks like in January, if we are talking, it was unrealistic. And for us, don't expect too much of returns in the market, always looking at last year. Anything can happen, and keep tone down your expectations. That could be another lesson. And the lesson now is पिछले 1 साल से it is like Jaan or Jahan, life and livelihood and lifestyle. Probably now is the lesson: forego your lifestyle, take care of your life. And and here choose investment right. Means your life is that your investment need to continue to earn. Don't go on the stylish way of the investments. Probably the stylish way of investment, what I mean is, if I have invested in cryptocurrency and I paid the price, just don't have that style. Stick to what you know. And this is a time for us, we have been told time and again in the 14 months, you need to build your immunity. And everyone you talk about, build your strength, build your immunity, and then you are progressive or you are peaceful, and strength, immunity, and progress was the mantra. Probably I can stay as a mutual fund guy, always stay invested with the SIP way. That will give you the strength of the long term, that gives the continuity, and that gives the prosperity to you. And the last but the not least, earlier when Kiran said, I think emergencies can come anyway. I mean, you don't know any time. and you need to have that emergency fund. I think this is what I look at last 1 year, what I learned from the general life and what I can implement to my personal financial life.
Right. Thank you so much for these lessons. And as we near the completion of this webinar, I open this question to all three of you. What is that one lesson you would want our viewers to take away from today's conversation? We can start with Mr. Trivedi.
So actually, it's a slightly longer answer, but the lessons that I've learned during the pandemic is, number one, nothing is certain, and number two, nothing is in your control. We all are helpless beyond a point, and if that's the case, I think first let's accept our vulnerability. Number two, take help of qualified professionals whenever things are getting out of you feel that you can't do much about it. Take help of qualified professionals. And number three, whenever possible, extend a helping hand to people. Otherwise, there are a few things that we can do to take precautions. During the pandemic, we've learned to wear masks. We've learned to sanitize our hands, wash our hands regularly, maintain distance, not going out in the crowds, forego some of the worldly pleasures that we were used to earlier. Same things can be applied to personal finances as well. The masks are your contingency fund, your health insurance, your life insurance. Those are protection related things. Cash in the portfolio. You maintain social distance, which means whatever is your main profession, stick to it. With investments, don't keep watching your portfolio on a daily basis. Maintain a social distance from watching the portfolio or watching the ticker. That's not your area of interest. I mean, I've seen a lot of people watching a daily number of cases going up or down and then feeling depressed themselves. So while the virus did not attack, a virus of COVID did not attack, the virus of anxiety had attacked them simply because of watching the numbers. And there was nothing that anybody could have done about changing those numbers which the virus was infecting people. So maintain that, because if you focus on your life and your goals, then the sanity will at least prevail. And for that, there's this beautiful dialogue from the movie Anand, which is one of my favorites. Rajesh Khanna tells at one point, speaks at one point in time, he says, "जब तक जिंदा हूं तब तक मरा नहीं, और जब मर गया तो साला मैं ही नहीं, फिर डर किस बात का?" Now, at some point, we need to develop that attitude, and it's not about not worrying about anything, but it's all about not unnecessarily worrying about things. Take precautions and stop worrying. That's really the message. Then we also learned not to go into unknown places, crowded places, etc., etc. Now, in the world of investing, the moment a place gets crowded, there is herd mentality which has set in. Stay away from that herd mentality. The investment that everybody is talking about could be in that bull phase or near the top of the market. So cut down on that as well. That may not be the right place to be. Don't go to unknown places. As Mr. Rao was mentioning, stick to the investments that you know of, and know about the investment before signing the check. Although these are in the digital world, we don't sign checks any longer, but know the investment. A lot of times people do the reverse. They invest first and then try to know about the things. It's like I see a lot of parents of school-going kids. The school-going kids do the right behavior, parents do the wrong behavior. The kids study the subject before the exams, before they write the paper. The parents write the paper of investing and then go and ask what is the syllabus. Don't do that mistake. These are some basic lessons. And at the end of in the end, the last message that I would want to put to everybody: if you are the fortunate one who's not impacted by this pandemic or less impacted by the pandemic, or otherwise you are fine, do good for the others. There are a lot of people suffering. Extend that help to whatever extent you can. That's my last message. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderfully said. Ms. Telang, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, just one small thing. I mean, to sum up what Rao sir and Amit have said, I think it's very important to calm the storm within, because all our problems arise from the anxiety that we have in our mind. So to calm the storm within, probably how you can go about it is just write down what is bothering you the most and what is it that you can do about it. There are only certain things that you can do, whether in terms of health, you can take precautions. In terms of wealth, you can see what you're missing out in terms of, say, emergency fund and other things that we discussed in the session. And, well-being of your friends and family. So just being in touch. So once you're done that, I mean, whatever you can do at your end, beyond that, it is only surrendering to the divine. And you don't know what angels the divine is sending to you in terms of families, friends, your employers, your professional support. I mean, there are so many things in your life that you have to be grateful for. So have that gratitude, and I think life will go on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Rao, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, probably both of them have spoken so well. I don't want to mess up anything now, and I only pray and wish everyone a good health and prosperity. And this is the time when she said, "Stay calm." That's the most important. New normal. This NEW new. It's all depends on your mindset. If your mindset is very calm, positive, and you are looking at that gratitude and grace, that NU is never ever worry. NEW. Or if you are not doing on the opposite side, NEW can be a never-ending worry. And better to stick to the first, that new normal is never ever worry, and focus on that, what you can do. I think Amit said very rightly, the compassion. If you can do something to the poor, like giving to someone, that's the most important thing. I one of the spiritual masters, one of in our sessions, he was mentioning, we are all in this difficult race. This time you need to bring God before your race, then that will become a grace. I think God plus race is equal to the grace. I think that is a grace we need to believe in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, this is it for today. Thank you so much, all of you, to our panelists for joining us. Thank you so much to all our viewers for being back with us. We will be back with another episode next month. Till then, have a good night. Have a great day. Have a safe, stay safe inside your homes. Take all precautions. Get yourself vaccinated, and we'll all see you next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Vishal. Thanks, Amit and Kiran.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.